go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 8th session of our Talking with Your Pompe Peeps series. I'm so glad you could join us today, and I want to start by thanking each of you for taking the time to be here. This is an especially exciting session for us, as it's our back-to-school session, and it also marks a special anniversary. Not only does the AMDA turn 30 this month, exactly 1 year ago, we held our very first Talking with Your Pompe Peeps session with today's moderator, Colleen Sackos. Today's session is titled Back to School with Pompe, Real Talk for Real Parents. Colleen Sackos is a proud mother of 3, an educator with over 15 years of experience as a teacher and administrator in the elementary school setting in both Oregon and Arizona. Her youngest son, Axel, has infantile onset Pompe disease and just finished first grade. She lives in Happy Valley, Oregon, and is grateful to be a part of the Pompe community. Together we are strong. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Colleen.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm in Oregon. I know it's an early time for us, but sometimes for families and educators, early is when we get our day started. And I am just very grateful for the opportunity to gather as a community, to be a part of the Pompe community and support with AMDA and all of our warriors and our families throughout the world, really. As a parent, I'm so grateful for the connections and the support I receive, and I'm really hopeful I can always support in my way as a parent and in my experience in education with any questions that might come up, or even after today's session, I'm always happy to connect and engage in conversation or support in any way that I can. So I'm going to go ahead and just start with a few talking points, and then just really, as Matt said, open up the conversation with any specific conversation topics or concerns or questions that have come up for you, celebrations as we go back to school, some maybe helpful strategies or supports that you've experienced, or some challenges you've experienced. And ideally, we can all gather here to share maybe things that we've done to support our students or to support those as they navigate school, which is a time and a place that everyone should be allowed to access and experience and enjoy and thrive in that environment, even if there are and when there are additional considerations for our children with Pompe disease and our families that are living the Pompe lifestyle. So thank you again for gathering. Thank you for the opportunity to join. Please feel free to unmute yourself, ask questions, put questions in the chat, and we'll continue to engage in that conversation as we go along. So Matt, if you could switch to the next slide, please. I asked Matt to do the slides today just so we could engage in that conversation and not be too, have technology be too tricky. I could read from my slides too. So as Matt said, I'm a proud mom of 3. I have a 9th grader starting high school this year, which is exciting for all of us. My oldest will start high school. I have a 7th grader. My daughter will be in 7th grade middle school. And then my youngest, Axel, has infantile onset Pompe disease. He will be in 2nd grade this year. I've been an educator. I did the math for 20 years this year. I took a little time off after Axel was born, but I've worked, grew up in Oregon. So I did some my own education here in Oregon and at University of Oregon, and then did some teaching and administrative work in Arizona, came back to Oregon, have done administrative work here. I've worked a little bit at the middle school level, the K-8 school, but primarily my experience has been at the elementary level. So feel like, again, I can speak to my own experiences, but I know there's a wealth of knowledge and expertise out in the community as well.
Sorry, did the slides did not go forward?
Now it's on the second slide.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. And if you could actually, we're ready for the third one, if you are.
Did it go?
Now it just says loading, but I can just read from my slides too. There's not a whole lot of content in the slides because hoping just to engage in conversation. So as we begin, I just wanted to share that today I am speaking as a parent of a child with Pompe disease, sharing personal experiences and insights that have helped our family navigate the return to school. I am not representing or speaking on behalf of the North Clackamas School District. The information provided is not intended as medical or educational advice. Please consult with your child's medical providers and your local school system to determine what is most appropriate for your child's specific needs and circumstances. Every family and school environment is different, and decisions should be made based on your individual situation. So just a reminder that, every child is unique and, may have special considerations to consider or discuss with your own team. And again, I'm here as a mom just to offer the support or insight I might be able to provide as a mom of a child with Pompe disease. Um, so this is a very exciting time. I know we are sharing today. I'm out in Happy Valley, Oregon, which is a suburb that's southeast of Portland, Oregon. And our summer starts a little bit later, mid-June, and we don't go back to school until after Labor Day. So we're in the middle of getting school supply lists and thinking about backpacks and lunch boxes. And I know in other parts of the country, school has already started or is possibly starting this week. So I know for me, back to school has always been a special time. My mom was a teacher, and so I have, good memories of going back to school. And I know that for a lot of reasons, for a lot of people, this can also be somewhat of a nerve-wracking time. There's a lot to think about, and the excitement can bring some worries, some concerns. And I know when Axel started school, it almost makes me a little emotional. We were so thrilled to have him start his school journey. It was so special to us. We were looking forward to all the opportunities he'd have to make friends and learn to read and be a part of a school community. And it felt like there was so much more to think about than we had experienced with our other children who do not have Pompe disease. So with that, I would just like to open up what's coming up for our guests, what topics you might like to talk about today, possibly what has gone well for you, what's been helpful, what strategies have been helpful, whether with your family or friends or the school community, and what has been challenging, what's been hard, what are some things that you could, use some insight from the group on. I have some of my own, of what's gone well and what's been challenging that I'm happy to share. But I would like to open up right now if there's anyone who has a specific question or conversation topic to either say that, feel free to unmute yourself and ask or put that in the chat.
Hey there, can y'all hear me?
Hi, Haley. I can hear you just
Hey,
fine. It's so nice to see you.
you too. Sorry, I was getting my fusion started this morning.
No,
Um,
no need to apologize. Thanks for
so
being here.
you're welcome. So a big topic for me and my family lately has been going to college on campus, and there's a lot that goes into that, right? And so it's kind of, the challenge of when do you reach out? Is it too early to reach out? Which, I know a lot of people say it's never too early to reach out, right? But yeah, it's just trying to think of what you need to do to get it accomplished and all that, So going to college on campus has been a big topic in my family lately, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Haley. It's so good to see you. Thank you for joining us. And what a fantastic question. And I agree. I want to start by saying, even though my kids are younger, we have continued to tell them there are no limitations or restrictions to what you will do with your life, with your opportunities in education, in your career. It again, just like starting kindergarten, there may be some additional considerations. There will be considerations that we need to look at. And there are different pathways for everyone, what that looks like post high school, post high school graduation. but I never want to feel like because of the additional considerations, those opportunities aren't there or can't be achieved. So thank you. That's a great question. I mean, I know there's others in the room that may have had experience with taking that next step to college, living independently, attending classes on campus, any of those. Is there anyone in the room that could speak to that a little more? If not, I can give my perspective, but
I could speak a little bit about
Yeah,
it.
and me too.
I was lucky, Tiffany and I were so close that when she started college, my mom would drive her back and forth. And she would always make sure that she had her breathing machine on the back of her wheelchair. And then it's kind of nice, right, Haley? Like in college, you get to schedule your classes. Where in regular schooling, elementary, middle school, high school, you have to be there at 8 a.m. You have to be there till 3 p.m. And when you get exhausted or you need breaks, things like that, that's kind of difficult to get in the regular school system. In college, it's a little bit more like, you can schedule your classes, which I think is helpful. So you kind of know your own limitations and how you can do that. But because we were so close, I graduated just, a year behind her, that we would schedule our classes together at the same time. So we would drive together at the same time. So I was there if she needed something, if she needed like the battery changed. Because Haley, I'm sure you know too, like those batteries on the back of the things, you can't just reach around and grab it like we could. So
Oh yeah.
it was like, the battery's beeping, mom didn't charge it. I'd be like, oh my gosh, it didn't get charged. And so I could run over, meet her, change a battery, tease her a little bit, and then leave. But yeah, I bet college is like a completely different thing. How exciting for you though, Haley, that you're doing that. And because yeah, I'm with Colleen, like, yeah, there's no limitations. There's nothing that shouldn't be, not possible. Um, I know Tiffany was always exhausted and like she always had to have her breathing tube, so it was hard, but y'all all know she was incredibly intelligent, so she did it. She was awesome. But yeah, that's different. I hadn't even thought about that until you brought it up.
Yeah, I'll share, but my daughter has Crohn's disease and she actually just graduated with her master's this May. So she's been in college for 6 years. So she went to the University of Oklahoma and they have an office called the Accessibility and Disability Resource Center. I think most college campuses have one. It may not be named the same, but it offers the same resources. So connect with them like now, so that they can work with you on what your needs are. They will help you with your professors, with your testing, your, just studying and everything, whatever you need, they're there for you. And then you will connect with them every year, because your needs will change probably, but they are a definite good resource on campus. And then just connect with your professors, as my daughter did, to let them know, your health situation and your needs. And you make that connection with them and you establish the relationships. And that went a long way for my daughter, because there was times where she was not feeling well and she was able to do virtual classes, instead of going in person if she needed to. And that was very helpful, allowing her to make up the work and that kind of thing. So, but they have that resource there. So look into that. That would help.
They do. Yeah. And Tiffany did the same thing. She would always get with her professors and let them know. She would do because Tiffany, she would do a small like education on Pompeii and telling them, what it is and what to expect and things like that. But, we didn't have the virtual classes then.
You're right.
That's really happened after COVID.
Yeah.
That's one of
Yeah.
those COVID bonuses that we got. Haley, are you able to do some online courses or get on, or is it just in person?
So I'm working to get my associate degree right now, and I'll finish that in May, and all of my classes are through our local community college online. So right now I'm not going in person for anything, it's all online.
Nice. That's great, because then you don't even have to worry about the time you're scheduling, your exhaustion levels, because I'm sure you know what periods of the day for you are more tiring, when you need a break, when you need something extra. So, oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah, it's been really nice, and most of my classes have opened up at least like work for a couple of weeks. That way, hey, if I know, like for example, I just got done taking 2 summer classes, and we went on 2 vacations over the summer, and so I know that I'm going on vacation this week and this week. So the week before, I need to work ahead. That way, while I'm
Mhm.
on vacation, I don't have to worry about any homework. And that's really nice about some of the professors allowing us to do our work ahead of time.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
Good for you.
And it's
Mhm.
so nice too, as you get older, especially growing up with Pompe, if you've, I know a lot of late onset get diagnosed in adulthood or early adulthood or even, at whatever stage, but those that get diagnosed early, I feel like when you're raised with it, it's been your life, it's been what you've been dealing with. By the time you do get to college, you are like, yeah, I got this. I know what I need. I know what I need to do. Yeah. On the elementary side, Colleen, I did want to ask you, for when they do need breaks and they're getting tired,
Mhm.
um, what does that look like? Like, because I know, I mean, being in the elementary classroom as a teacher and now as a mama too, all the kids are excited to get in there and then they're excited to go to PE, they're excited to go to lunch, they're excited to go to recess, they're excited to go to art, like, but
Mhm.
it's a lot of moving. Even in
Mhm.
elementary school, it's not,
Mhm.
they're not going class to class like maybe middle school or high school, but
Mhm.
in elementary, it's a lot of movement and that's hard.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely. And that's definitely something to think about. And I'll just speak to like what options there are at the elementary level in terms of additional supports. So, I'm sure most people are familiar with, but there are two different kinds of plans that can support students in schools. So, one is called a 504 plan, and one is called an individualized education plan. So, an individualized education plan is under the special education umbrella. Some of this can look different, school district to school district, state to state. So again, for specific kids, definitely talk with your own educators and care team. But just some general information is that both of those plans will have potential accommodations, potential modifications to the day, where one of those things might be breaks throughout the day. And I think what I would suggest from the parent perspective is to not hesitate to reach out to your child's teacher, to the general school team. I've heard people say, well, I'm not sure who to talk to, or I'm not sure how to start the process, or I don't want anything to be seen, again, just throwing it as a label or negative. And I would just, from
Mhm.
my perspective, the more information an educational team or care team can have, the better they can support your child. So my thought is the more you can share, just like you were talking about, Tiffany, knowing herself and knowing, what is helpful, that is going to help everyone work together. So there are many people that can be on a care team. And again, that's going to look different for every child, but there's the classroom general education teacher. There are teachers that work within special education who might support if a child has that level of need. There are speech and language pathologists that will support with speech. There are physical therapists, occupational therapists, school psychologists, school nurses, and really like even getting the office staff to be aware, for children that have a port, it's important to be aware what are some considerations. So there, again, there's so much, and I don't mean it to sound overwhelming, but if you're able to say, here is my amazing child, and I like to say, every child, Pompeii or otherwise, has their strengths, their amazing things about them, and every child has some things that we might need to just look at, or some additional parts of who they are that they might need additional supports in school to help them be their best selves, to help them learn at the highest capacity, to help them thrive. And what I'm learning now, as Axel, has had 2 years of elementary school, and we were, COVID, again, there are some benefits that came from COVID, but that was a real, you know, it was a shift in our journey as, as parents and
Yeah.
educators and, in our community and society. But Axel did do 2 years of preschool before he started elementary school too. So that we also learned, about what does school look like? What does it look like to, have him be away from us, and what do we need to communicate? So I think what I was going to say is what we're learning is that also changes. So you might start kindergarten saying, here's where we are, and here's, what we're thinking about, and then things could evolve. There's school counselors that could also be involved. In conversations, about how to best support the child. So definitely advocating, speaking up. Hopefully, you're getting great communication and responsiveness to those questions and what's coming up for your child as they start school. But it also can be written down if needed, if appropriate for your child, in a 504 plan or an IEP. And that just writes down the information for the school team, and also allows for more opportunities to meet regularly to review how are things going, what else do we need, what might we need to modify or change. If again, where we are, the way it works is also if a child, before they start kindergarten, might also get support at the preschool level or even in the home through early education, early childhood. So there can even be opportunities for like a speech and language pathologist or physical therapist to come support the child in the home, and then link up with the elementary school to communicate what plans were in place, what supports were in place, and then have the school team sort of take that information as they look at what supports a child might need. I'm seeing something in the chat. So when I needed a break in a classroom in elementary school through high school, I had someone scribe for me, like writing my notes. Or if I didn't have that person in a classroom, I would put my pencil down and lay back with my eyes closed, and my teachers knew it meant I needed a break. That's wonderful. So not only having a student support, and that's another, when we talk about, thank you, Jules, for sharing around like the accessibility and disability. And from my perspective, we're supporting our children and our young adults with Pompe, but we're also allowing others in the greater community to learn about how there are many different ways to learn and move about this world. So having students work together to support, I think, is mutually beneficial. And then also having kind of, it sounds like a nonverbal signal for a teacher to know, okay, this is something that, is being communicated to me right now. So therefore we're going to have this, person take a break, or whatever they might need. So that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Morgan.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Colleen, I'm really glad you explained the 504 and the IEPs, because as teachers know what it means, but not all parents know. And especially if they have a child and they're not fully aware of it, moving forward, get fully aware with it, because it's very, very helpful. And yeah, like you said, it also creates those built-in automatic meetings, not just, the regular parent teacher conferences that happen like maybe twice a year if you have a student that really does need more. But Morgan, that's a really good point. The just that nonverbal cue, because it doesn't bring attention to you. It doesn't, you don't have to say something to the teacher. They don't have to acknowledge, and just, there's no disruption with that. So those nonverbal cues are great. And then Colleen, I don't know if you've, well, you were a teacher for a long time. So yeah, you probably know. There's a lot of parents that don't want to say anything because they're like, they either don't want to bother the teacher. They're like, well, I don't want to bother them with this. I'll just kind of give them like a little thing. Or even if it's not Pompe, it's other things. They'll say, well, I don't want to bring it to their attention because maybe they won't have this issue this year. And it's like, the more we know, the better your school year is going to be. And that's across the board. And there were parents constantly, well, I don't want to tell them this. And what if they don't do that? And I'm like, I had parents tell me all kinds of things. And then I would tell them, I never once saw that. I never experienced that with your student. And so then it was like, and they were like, they do this at home all the time. And I was like, they're not doing it here. So we're doing okay, but I'll let you know. But it was nice to know, look out for that, be on the, be aware. And a lot of parents, they don't really want to speak up. So yeah, that speak up, say something, even minor little things. If you're, and like you said, whether it's Pompe or not, every kid is dealing with something. Every kid has their strengths and their weaknesses, things they need to work on. So yeah, being able to communicate, that's great. Do you give like the school nurse any kind of extra information, pamphlets have, I'm sure the school nurse does not know about Pompe disease.
Mhm.
So it's probably square one. How do you go
Mhm.
about talking to the nurse?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've seen this done in a number of ways. We're getting this like beautiful Oregon sunshine. I'm gonna go put my blinds down right now.
Okay.
We're not used to getting so much sun here in Oregon. Give me just a minute. I'm just gonna so I can feel a little bit.
Hmm.
Sorry about that. Thank you. It was getting very bright, a little hard to see. So yeah, I absolutely. I think for a lot of our kids, and again, this could be for kids with Pompe or without, it's really helpful to make sure as much information as possible is shared with the school nurse. And I've seen oftentimes the school nurse can be part of that IEP team or part of that 504 team, or again, even just some advanced information for the nurse to be aware of. And, that can be, again, here's just some general information around Pompe disease. And I've found, and I've heard, oftentimes, not only is there a genuine interest in, yes, how can we support your child, but also I'm learning more. I'm learning more about this rare disease. I've never heard of this, or maybe I do have a connection, or so my perspective too is the more information we can share out into the world about Pompe disease um,
better.
is the better, just for so many reasons, right? But then, yeah, to support the specific student, different for every kid, but it might be communication about infusions. What does that look like? Frequency, what does that mean for school? Why is that happening? Why this may not be specific school nurse, but why, a child may be missing more school for both infusions and appointments. And then again, if the child has a port or some way that they are, receiving their infusions, that may be a consideration at school. If the child wears hearing aids, if the child has, so there, I think all of that information is really important for the school nurse to have, and just the greater team to have. And again, ideally, and what I've seen, experienced, and heard is that the school team is very excited to learn more. Great, this is helpful for us to know, and just I think opens up those lines of communication as well for how do we support the child in being most successful. I know I've heard a lot. People say, just developing that strong relationship with your school nurse so that as things come up, you can communicate, and with the teacher as well, just keeping that ongoing communication about medical needs, even, what the appointments and infusions, how that may impact missing schoolwork. That's another consideration. I see Haley nodding. I was thinking about when you said, something that came out of COVID is virtual. Something that's come out of COVID too is like online assignments. So not just attending classes, but like being able to do online assignments. So I think there's opportunities to say, okay, we know there's going to be some school missed due to, whatever the schedule is like for the child, infusions, appointments, therapies, illness, be cautious, about, if there's an illness in the community,
Going around.
yeah, there's so many reasons why, potentially more schools missed. So those opportunities to access, online schoolwork, online assignments, or for our educators to say, here, they can, even for our little ones, read this, take home book, work on this work that was missed in class. And, I've even seen where you can work with like child life at the hospital to say, okay, if we're missing school, how do we, still make sure that we're keeping up with the schoolwork in a way that feels, appropriate for that child in that situation.
I can add to that. When you were like missing school and doctor's appointments, I'm like, she hit that right on the money. I used to go to Duke every Thursday for my infusions for 10 years. And for those of you that know me well, I attended public school from early childhood all the way to my 10th grade year. And then 11th and 12th grade and so on, including now, I am doing virtual school. And it was being really hard, as Colleen was saying, you know, I'm prone to get sick more often, and I would be out for that once a week for infusions, and I would try to connect with my teacher and be like, hey, I'm gonna be out every Thursday. Like, is there any work that you can send home with me for me to do at my infusion? And in fifth grade, I actually had a kind of a mini health issue going on where I had to stop going to school and I had to do homebound. So I would have a teacher come to my house like 2 or 3 times a week and do school with me. And so doing it online has some pros and some cons as well. I'm a social butterfly, so not having as much of the social interaction online as you would in person has been I wouldn't say challenging, but I'm not having as much of a social interaction. But I still do when I go out places and events and whatever. But when you said, and I had an IEP as well, all throughout my schooling. So my mom would have those meetings with the teachers every, I don't know, couple of months. So yeah, IEP and missing school and all that was a big part of my life when I was attending public school.
Thank you so much for sharing, Haley. I appreciate that. Any other questions or topics that are
I'm going to
coming
say
up?
something to Haley.
Sure.
I think it's really great that she can do virtual because I don't know. I'm not on Facebook a whole lot, but I get, they're on the go all the time. Haley, you guys do so much fun things, and being able to do your scroll work around, you're not wasting your energy going to school, but going to events. And that is really awesome that you're able to do that. So I want to do that more. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I
Yay.
think it's awesome.
It is. It's great.
Before virtual, you must have gotten so tired and then you have no energy left to go out and do fun things. And your family seems to find all kinds of fun things to do, which is we want your mom to do one of these, not to die. And she did that seminar, one of our conferences on how can you take and do all these wonderful vacations and turn lemons into lemonade. You're probably too young to remember that, but she did an awesome job.
And actually, I know this is not what we're talking about on this session, so I'm not talking about it long, but kind of like you said, vacations, like that's the thing. Like I cannot get on an airplane with my power chair. My dad has to physically pick me up, carry me to the seat on the airplane, and we have to take my manual chair when and actually when we were coming to San Antonio, not last time, at the time before that, the people on the airplane, the airplane people broke something on my wheelchair. And when you break something, that's not something that you can mess around with. It's just not. And I know that they're trying to make airplanes more accessible now, and they're not quite there yet, but they're working towards it. And I think it's a great idea because it's just not easy for me to fly. It's really not easy for me to drive either, or for me to ride in the car because I have to sit in my wheelchair. But it's easier than flying, to be honest.
Yeah, we did the same thing with Tiffany too, Haley. It was usually my job. It was scoop her up and then get her in the airplane chair. And then a lot of times those wheelchairs, you're right, the flight people, they will take them apart to make them fit. And then they try to put it back together and it's not together right, or a piece is broken. And then you're like, we can't get around without a wheelchair. What are we supposed to do now?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, it's like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that is a challenge for sure. That is.
I'd love to hear a session more about vacation and traveling. And I was just having this conversation with someone else, just the infusion consideration, right? If you're,
Yeah.
you know,
You're gonna
making
go on holiday?
sure, again, you're able to do as much as possible, but making sure you're getting your needs met. And,
Mhm.
so yeah, that would be fantastic. I'd love to learn more.
Colleen, I do have another question. I feel like I'm asking you
Sure.
other questions.
Of course, please.
So Axel is in the first grade, or going to be going into the first grade this year.
Going into the second grade.
Going into the second grade this year.
Yes.
He's finished.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, and then you said he did preschool for a couple of years.
Mhm.
Has he come up with his own way to explain to his friends like what's going on and when they have questions? Because little kids, they just ask. Like, I can remember when I was little, people wouldn't ask my sister directly, but friends would ask me, like,
Mhm.
why is your sister in a wheelchair? Why is
Mhm.
she got that tube? Why, like,
Mhm.
and then my sister, because she was living with it, if she did get asked, she had like this whole, oh, it's Pompe disease. It's
Mhm.
this, and it would be a very scientific answer.
Mhm.
And usually people were like, what the heck is she talking about?
Yeah.
And so I learned my own way of saying, like, it's a muscle disease. Her body just kind of breaks down her own muscle. It's a problem.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then they'd be like, why does she have the tube? And I'd be like, well, your diaphragm is a muscle.
Mhm.
So, and she's having a difficult time breathing. So she has that to supplement. Oh, okay. And I can remember a very clear moment one time when I was explaining it because Tiffany was about to, oh, and I was like, and I just explained it real quick.
Mhm.
And my sister went, well, that was a really simple explanation. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I'm not going to get into the scientifics. I was like, I'm going to just tell them pretty blankly. And she was like, oh, and I thought, I guess I just had adopted that at some point in my life because there were so many questions. But I thought,
Mhm.
yeah, a little baby going to school, like they're in kinder, other kids are gonna, why do you have that? Why do you have
Mhm.
this? What's
Mhm.
going on? And I'm sure he's got his own way of explaining. Has he ever had like an issue with that? Has he ever, or is it just normal for him?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And again, it makes it a little emotional because
I'm
it
sure,
is.
yeah.
It's these are people we care about
Totally.
so deeply, right? And we want the best for them. Thankfully, we've had a really positive experience with Axel. I think one of the things I think about is, and we know little ones, is they look at what's really visible. So, or
Mhm.
what's kind of the first thing that might stand out. So for
Right.
Axel specifically, he wears hearing aids. And we've great technology right now where kids can pick the different colors and he's had, dinosaurs in the molds. So that always is
Mhm.
a question kids want to know about his hearing aids.
Yeah.
And so I was really grateful that his team gave him the opportunity to present about his hearing aids and what they are and what they do. And it just
Oh, I love that.
made my heart so happy because again, I think we see now the world we're living in now. No, nothing's perfect, but I'm grateful. I think we're in a place now where we celebrate the unique aspects of who we are, and we
Yeah.
celebrate that each of us are our own person and are uniquely ourselves. And so, kids have glasses, kids have hearing aids, kids have to go get, we call it muscle juice, have to go get muscle juice at the hospital regular, so I think, and that we celebrate. And so I was very grateful. The hearing aids were always the first thing that kids seemed to ask about, even at the park, what are those things in his ears? And I think it genuinely, I don't see it as well, let's pretend that's not happening or pretend it's not there. Oh, I can't believe they're asking. It's genuine curiosity. And often those are cool. Why does he get to wear those? So, um, that was something I was really grateful. It was not even initiated by myself, but that the school team had him present to his class about his hearing aids and talk about what they are and why he uses them. And he felt so proud, right, to do that. That felt like, look at
Yeah.
who I am and I get to talk about it. His articulation is pretty impacted too. So for unfamiliar listeners, it can be harder to understand him. So that was another something we've experienced as kids might say, why does he talk like that? Or what did he say? And so that's something we've really worked with speech therapy. And again, this is for him. Everyone, approaches things differently, but strategies, I think they call it like compensatory strategies. So if you say something and someone doesn't understand you, can you explain it in a different way? Can you draw a picture? Can you write it down? And even for us, there will be times once in a while where he'll be talking about something. Sometimes it's from like a movie or, and something really obscure. And we'll say, tell us more about that. And he'll explain, oh, you're talking about, the Sonic 3 movie when this character,
That's
So
such a teacher answer too, isn't it, Colleen? Aren't we trained? Tell me more about that. Because
yes,
I think exactly
exactly.
I
Because
know
I
what you're
never
talking
want him
about.
to feel, we can't hear you or understand, but
Right. Yeah.
explain that more. So I think he's also learned it's not perfect. I'm sure there's moments,
Sure.
but if you say something and someone doesn't understand what you say, how do you say that differently? And I remember too, one time he's got a really wonderful group of kids, that he's connected with in families, but being in a group where someone didn't understand what he said. And one of the kids said, well, he said this, right? Or he's talking about the lion in the book. I overheard a kid, one of his friends sort of, and I want Axel to have his own voice and speak for himself, but I love to see a peer kind of jump in and, you know,
Help
offer,
out.
like we talked about, offer that support so that we can all be in communication and moving forward. So those were two things that I think came up for him as he started school and will continue to come up. But again, I'm grateful I think there's been really intentional um, awareness raised about celebrating children and who they are and the unique aspects to their identity. And so thankfully we haven't had, or I haven't observed or experienced too many challenges. I think he's got I was going to say, a great group of kids and families that I'm very appreciative of. I think, also he feels connected to school. There have been times where I think for all kids, there are days where they don't feel like going to school or it's harder to
Right.
go to school. And I think sometimes school is harder because um, and again, for him, he might tire out a little. Things are a little bit harder. It's a little more exhausting. So, I think we've also had to work through. I think for a lot of our community, there might be like a mental health aspect to, when things are harder, it can be discouraging. So I think that's another consideration to look at. Is are there mental health supports within the school setting or outside of the school setting as we navigate this journey, both for the children, the siblings, the caregivers, how do we make sure we're taking care of ourselves, both physically and mentally and emotionally, to stay strong throughout this journey? And we don't expect perfection. It's okay to say things are hard. It's okay to say, this was a tough day, or I feel sad, or I feel frustrated, or I'm angry. And how do we navigate those feelings to keep moving forward? I know that may get more complex as we go along and kids are older and we navigate middle school and different classes. And thank you for the great conversation around, high school and college and all the different options. But again, I think for everyone, there's hurdles in our journey and there's challenges and there's celebrations. So I think coming back to reaching out to what are the supports in place to help us. We're not in this alone. No family is alone. No child's alone. No adult is alone in this journey. And opportunities like this for us to connect and have these conversations. I'll reach out to, Haley and Crystal when Axel's in high school and we're talking about college opportunities, right? I love connecting about, what does traveling look like? So I think we lean on each other to navigate when things get hard, because things do get hard
Yeah.
for all of us. And I think for our kids with Pompe, we just need to make sure we're doing all we can to take things one day at a time. And
Yeah.
I think another aspect of that, what we know about I think school for kids, we like school to be very predictable and be routines and be on a schedule. And, that's we want things to be familiar. And when you are missing a lot of school for infusions and appointments and therapies, that can be hard, that can be disruptive. Oh, I missed this, activity yesterday and now I'm here and I'm trying to kind of catch up, or we've had to rearrange infusions for field trips and I do my best to try and make sure we don't miss really exciting stuff. But I know there have been assemblies, as kids do. Kids get sick, kids,
Right.
travel. But I think when you're missing as much school as you potentially are with, infusions, appointments, and therapies, that can also be a little bit hard when you feel like, well, I'm not there as often. But again, we just do our best to keep up with what might be missed, or just, talking with Child Life about, this is why we need muscle juice, and it helps keep us strong. And um, as you set
Yeah.
up that infusion lifestyle and routines, what does that look like? It means you may miss school once in a while. It means, you might have to go to extra appointments, but, how do you make it, the again, where Axel is his age, why do we need to do these things? And yes,
Yeah.
thankfully he, not always, but he has has a very positive association with infusions. It's just, this is what I do. I get one-on-one time with mom, and it helps keep me strong. And I know that could change too, but how do we reframe as best we can that, yes, this is a lifestyle that, maybe others aren't living, and it's what your body needs, and it's helping keep you strong so that we can go do all the things in the world that we want to do.
Yeah. Tiffany was the same way. She always took her infusions just like, no, it's just something I got to do.
Mm-hmm.
No big deal. I'm like, whatever.
Mhm.
It's just something I got to do now.
I'm
Mhm.
used to
Even though
it.
she didn't really even start young, but I love the idea of having them present, like giving them an option, like, do you want to present about this? That way it's
Mhm.
not just chatter back and forth or, and I feel like Tiffany and I had this conversation many, many times. But it's surprising, you're right. We've gotten to a point in society now where we are more open to talking about these things. It's not so like, oh, don't say anything, don't talk about it,
Mhm.
don't bring it up, blah, blah, blah. But still, there would be times where little kids, because yes, little kids, their very first thing is the visual difference. And they would come up, we would have stranger kids just run up to Tiffany and be like, what is that? Why are you sitting there? What's wrong with your
Mhm.
legs?
Mhm.
And parents immediately are like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe they
Yeah,
just said that. And it's like, no, no, no. It was like, it's okay. We want them to
exactly.
ask. It's fine. And Tiffany would always real sweet be like, oh, my legs just don't work like yours. Like, I don't have
Mhm.
your strong muscles. And she would always, and the parents would be like, I'm sorry. And it was like, don't be sorry. Like, we want to have those conversations. We want to let people know that there's other things going on and it's okay. Or yeah, if they have their hearing aid, you know, it's okay. My ears just don't work like yours, but he's got cool dinosaurs. So that's
Mhm.
that's really cute. That's
And,
awesome. I love that idea of presenting though. That's smart. That's good. That's a
Yeah,
great
it
little
was
icebreaker and make him feel like I got something special to say.
absolutely,
Kids
absolutely.
love.
It was, I was very grateful. That was yeah, a really really aspect to
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great. I
our
like that. That was a
journey.
smart idea.
Thank you.
it's so cute because I'm getting my infusion right now. I just started. And my little brother, he is 3 now, and my nurse, her name is Sandy, and we saw him like the night before, like, Nurse Sandy's coming tomorrow. Nurse Sandy's coming tomorrow and then Haley her medicine. And like he's starting to understand that, like, excuse me, that like I have to get my medicine in order, kind of like Colleen said, to be healthy and be able to do the things that you want to do and places you want to go, and everything else. So I think it's so cute that he says that. And one time after I got my port access, he looked at me and he was, Haley, you're so strong. And
Oh,
that made me like almost crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was so sweet. But yeah, talking about the infusion perspective of things of how little kids will ask.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And really
Alyssa and
just
Ray were pretty small when Tiffany was getting her infusions regularly. And so they were raised with seeing it. We'd go over
Mhm.
and bother her. We always called it bothering her. We'd go over and bother her. We'd talk to her, mess with her. But I can remember, yeah, the same thing. Alyssa and Ray would be like, does that hurt?
Mhm.
What are they doing? And they'd be like
Mhm.
right on top of her. And she'd be like, oh, it's just where I'm getting my medicine put in. And
Mhm.
then they would look at the medicine and try to poke it. And they would ask if they could touch it. And she was always just like, yeah, this is where I get to sit. And she would kind of explain it to them. And then they'd go about their business. To them, it was normal.
Mhm.
Yeah, I asked Davis, I'm like, Davis, do you want to touch my port? And sometimes he'll touch it and he'd be like, that's your port. And I'm like, that's right. And then when
Yeah.
look at my medicine, they're like, that's your medicine.
Yeah, it is fun to touch the port. I don't know why. But there is something about the port. I remember my sister had her port for a little while. She was like, you wanted to poke it. Like I can remember even being young, like, younger and being like, does that hurt? Can I touch it? And she'd be like, it's fine. It's just, and it'd be like, oh, that's neat. And the kids were into it. But
Yeah.
it's nice to have those conversations, make it normal. It's not weird. It doesn't need to be uncomfortable. It
Mhm.
doesn't need to be protect her. We can't speak about it. It's nice to have that comfortability, to be able to, yeah, to talk about it, not make it weird,
Mhm.
you
And
know?
just shout out to the siblings too. I mean, Andrea, I love hearing all these stories. And Haley, I know I've met Davis, and I'm so proud of my other two kids because they are just right there with us, right? Have been to infusions many, many times. We just got like a really neat and this is a great, resource too. Like a little dinosaur, stuffed dinosaur with a magnet port with like all the tools for accessing ports. So like that idea of like recreating these medical procedures for siblings too, to share like this is really kind of normalize it and take out the any worry. I mean, there may still, but just to really say, well, this is what it is and why
Realize.
we do it. So I think it's so, not only is it great for siblings to learn about the journey, but that I've also seen, my own kid, Axel's siblings, my other two kids will really, you know, talk about his Pompe disease, talk about his muscle juice, talk about
Mhm.
his speech, just, and I don't think it's anything I ever, it comes very naturally. And I think I've heard
Yes.
stories about that with a lot of siblings. It's really just something, I think there's a protectiveness, but there's also a like, hey, yeah, he's an awesome kid, and don't you want to know more about why? And let me tell you, and so I
Yeah.
think we've had some like volunteering. My daughter's volunteered at Axel School a little bit, so I think, just to really, there's a
That's
lot of
awesome.
strong connections and supporting, um, which is great. There was something else I was going to say. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I wanted to say that. Oh, I just want to mention too, I'm grateful, and I know this can be harder for families depending on where you live and your accessibility. But if you have the opportunity for younger kids to be with other kids, not only that might have Pompe disease or that have ports or are going through similar experiences. I've seen, I think there's that balance of like, yes, we want our kids in school around all different kinds of kids in this greater community, but also have those opportunities to meet other kids who are getting muscle, this is how we explained it, are getting muscle juice, have hearing aids, have potentially similar speech patterns, have a port. And so I've been so grateful. We've been to Duke 3 times now and connected with people in the Pompe community. And I think when we are able to have those connections, there's that affinity to say, here's someone who has similar life experiences as me, and we connect with some of the local kids here in Oregon, but we also are hoping to continue that for Axel, because I think it's really going to help him realize that I'm not alone in this. I
Mhm.
have all my friends and family and people in my community, and I know there's a lot of kids who I may only see every couple of years, but we've made attempts to FaceTime or to, have connections with, or, find ways to stay connected, because I think that also helps to feel like on those harder days or in those harder moments, I'm not the only one going through something like that. So I'd really encourage, again, it can be harder to travel, all of that to make it work, but even if you can FaceTime or do groups where you're able to have those conversations, and as a parent, it's helped to say, what did you, how did you navigate this, or what's coming up for you with this, or you're a couple steps ahead of me with this, what was something that you found useful. It's so valuable to have those connections within our
Absolutely. Yeah, we're
community.
social creatures. We like to know
Mm-hmm.
that we're not doing things alone, the good things or the bad things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's great. And too, as being an educator, kids play out everything.
Mm-hmm.
They want to replay it. The good stuff, the
Mm-hmm.
bad stuff, they are going
Mm-hmm.
to replay it. So yeah, like having the dinosaur that has the little magnetic port and having those little things, that's great for them. And then getting those contacts where it's like, oh, I also get infusions. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
really not the only one, even though in your little community of school, home, maybe wherever else they go, they might
Mm-hmm.
be one of the only one,
Mm-hmm.
unlikely that there's going to be another Pompe patient in the same school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that would be wild, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, reaching out and finding those connections, you're right. That's absolutely vital.
Mhm.
I have a question. Where where does this 504 and the IEP, where does that live? Is that a form or is that like a meeting you have? What does that process look like? Just creating that plan with the school. Like where would you start?
Yeah, those are great questions. And there's many different pathways to how that plan can be established. And I would definitely recommend for those families that have more questions about what that looks like for their child to, and you can, oh, this is something I was going to say earlier, you may start by asking your child's teacher and they may say, here's the person you want to talk to. So don't hesitate. Don't let the am I asking the right person hold you back from asking the question. So it might even be asking the front office staff, as you walk in, I have a question about this. Who's the
Okay.
best person to talk to? And they can give you that contact information. So, there's a lot of people here to, I think, in the greater community to support, and they may just say, oh, you want to talk to this person. So again, many different pathways. Like I said, sometimes kids start elementary school with an IEP for various reasons, or a family can ask about that. A school might say, we're looking at this potential support for the child because of this, that, and the other. We think this could be helpful. Sometimes kids have them for a little while and then don't have them. Sometimes they will have them all through their educational career. So there's many ways that can be both initiated and exist, but there are components of those processes, like we're saying, that have different requirements. And again, I encourage you to kind of look into what that might look like because it's different for every kiddo, but like meeting regularly, or what that looks like, who members of the team. But those are supports that can, that I'm trying to think how to word it. Those are supports that are meant to be potential opportunities for our kids to thrive in school. So if that is something that you think your child could benefit from, I would encourage you to just ask more questions about what that might look like, because it can be really helpful. And some kids don't need that, and that's okay too. It's not to say you have to have one of those for supports to be provided. It may be that for certain kids, just having conversations and clear communication meets their needs. And again, those needs and supports can evolve over time as well. So that can change. Andrea, I don't know if you want to add more to that, but that's sort of the general
I would just
overview.
say that I would tell parents you could talk to your pediatrician, you can talk to the
that
school
too.
administration, the teachers, and then just like Colleen said, it can change over the years. So 504s and IEPs are extremely fluid. So what a child may need in kindergarten, first grade, second grade could change third grade, fourth grade. And it might be, hey, we need less as we're going on. Or it might be, hey, we need more, depending on what they're going through. I can speak for my oldest son. He has dyslexia. We never had an IEP or a 504 because, like Colleen said, we were able to communicate with the school that these are his needs and this is what we need to do. And we've been fortunate that the school we've been in has said, you know, thank you. This is what we're going to do. What about this? And we say, yep, that's great. And they implement it and it's worked out well. So we haven't needed an IEP. Sometimes those can be more beneficial if the school has a lot of kids or they're just really busy or things like that. It's kind of a good way to just say, this is definitely what we need and have it be a little more specific. But yeah, it's definitely like a fluid thing. And I would also encourage parents to look up the difference between a 504 and an IEP to pick which one's best for your child. Because they do have different outlines, they have different requirements, they're different. They are different. So I would encourage parents to look at both of those and decide, which one fits the needs of my child and does my child even need one of these?
Okay.
Because like Colleen said, if you tell your teacher, my kid has this, it's Pompe disease, and you're telling them all about it, then it might just be kind of like what we talked about with Haley, that, hey, if I close my eyes, I'm not just ignoring you, I'm not falling asleep. I need a break. I need to breathe. I need to relax my body. And they say, okay, great. And it's never a problem.
Okay.
Like I said, with Ray and his dyslexia, we have not had a problem. Teachers have said, I've given them an outline. And in fact, I was able to find an educator on my own, actually, who was able to test him for dyslexia, dysgraphia, auditory processing, a bunch of different things. So finding the resources of the testing and things that you want done too, on your own. And then, yeah, and then I was able to give those to the school without an IEP or a 504, and they were able to say, yeah, we can accommodate these few things. So, but yeah, but also looking up the differences because they are different.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and I think we are at about time. Is there
We
anything
are.
else we want to say before we wrap up?
Thank you.
No, thank you, Haley.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions before we head out? I know we did go over a couple minutes.
It was a good discussion. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Colleen.
Yes. Thank you, Colleen.
Oh, thank you all. And thank you for just, again, the opportunity and all of the support. I mean, I know I'd say it all the time, together we are strong, but we learn from each other. You know, we gain strength from each other. And, you know, I think we thrive together. So thank you for the opportunity. I'm so grateful for everyone here and all you do for our community. And I just, however I can help, yeah, don't hesitate to reach out, and nice to see everyone. And as I said, connect virtually. This always just, you know, I feel just, you know, a sense of deep connection for myself and my family when we have these opportunities to be together. So thank you
Right.
for creating the space.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on.
Colleen,
Absolutely.
I have one quick question.
Sure.
The infusion stuffed animal that you had, did you get that from Grant's Giant?
Yes.
They're
Yes.
so cute.
Oh, it's
They're so
amazing.
adorable.
They
They
are
are
adorable.
amazing. So yes, that
Yeah,
was a
my
great
brother
resource.
loves playing with it. Like when
Mhm.
I'm getting my infusions, I'm like, your name is like access the port, like Haley gets hers. I love it. It was a great idea.
Yeah, that was a genius idea. And the glitter in the IV bag,
Mhm.
like to me, I associate glitter with like magic. And I
Yep.
think it's like, you know, it's
So
medicine
cute.
magic.
Yeah.
Little muscle juice. It's really cute. It was done very well. Yeah, they
It was
did great.
amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. And we will conclude here. Thank you all, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Nice to see
you.
Bye.
you.
Bye,
Take care.
everybody.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.